Musk deer is not found in every forest, but only in places like Bindu Sarovara. They are always intoxicated by the aroma of musk secreted from their navels. Gavayas, the species of the cow mentioned herein, bear a bunch of hair at the end of their tails. This bunch of hair is used in temple worship to fan the deities. Gavayas are sometimes called chamaris, and they are considered very sacred. In India, there are still gypsies of forest mercantile people who flourish by trading kasturi or musk and bunches of hair from the chamaris. These are always in great demand for the higher classes of Hindu population, and such business still goes on in large cities and villages in India. Text 45 to 47. Pravishya tirtavaram adirajah sahatmajah dadarsha munimasinam tasmin hutautashanam vidyotamanam vapusa tapasa ugrayuja chiram natiksamam bhagavataha snigdha pango pangavalaklokanat tadvyavaharamrita kalam piyusha shravanena cha pramshum padma palakshaksham jatilam chiravasasam upasamsritya malinam yatahranam asamskritam. Entering that most sacred spot with his daughter and going near the sage, the first monarch, Swayambhuva Manu, saw the sage sitting in his hermitage, having just propitiated the sacred fire by pouring oblations into it. His body shone most brilliantly. Though he has engaged in austere penance for a long time, he was not emaciated, for the Lord had cast his affectionate sidelong glance upon him, and he had also heard the nectar flowing from the moon-like words of the Lord. The sage was tall, his eyes were large like the petals of a lotus, and he had matted locks on his head. He was clad in rags. Swayambhuva Manu approached and saw him to be somewhat soiled, like an unpolished gem. Purport. Here are some descriptions of a brahmachari yogi. In the morning, the first duty of a brahmachari seeking spiritual elevation is huta utashana, to offer sacrificial oblations to the Supreme Lord. Those engaged in brahmacharya cannot sleep until 7 or 9 o'clock in the morning. They must rise early in the morning, at least 1.5 hours before the sun rises, and offer oblations, or in this age they must chant the holy name of the Lord Hare Krishna. As referred to by Lord Chaitanya, Kalau nastyeva, 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 gatir anyata. There is no other alternative in this age to chanting the holy name of the Lord. The brahmachari must rise early in the morning, and after placing himself should chant the holy name of the Lord. From the very features of the sage, it appeared that he had undergone great austerities. That is a sign of one observing brahmacharya, the vow of celibacy. If one lives otherwise, it will be manifest in the lust visible in his face and body. The word vidyotamanam indicates that the brahmachari feature showed in his body. That is a certificate that one has undergone great austerity in yoga. A drunkard or smoker or sex monger can never be eligible to practice yoga. Generally, yogis look very skinny because of not being comfortably situated. But Kardama Muni was not emaciated, for he had seen the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. Here the word snigdha apangava lokanat means that he was fortunate enough to see the Supreme Lord face to face. He looked healthy because he had directly received the nectarian sound vibration from the lotus lips of the personality of Godhead. Similarly, one who hears the transcendental sound vibration, the holy name of the Lord Hare Krishna, also improves in health. We've actually seen the many brahmacharis and grihasthas connected to the International Society for Krishna Consciousness have improved in health, and a luster has come to their faces. It is essential that a brahmachari engaged in spiritual advancement look very healthy and lustrous. The comparison of the sage to an unpolished gem is very appropriate. Even if the gem as taken from a mine looks unpolished, the luster of the gem cannot be stopped. Similarly, although Kardama was not properly dressed and his body was not properly cleansed, his overall appearance was gem-like. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasani Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Please repeat the translation. Entering that most sacred spot with his daughter and going near the sage, the first monarch, Swayambhuva Manu, saw the sage sitting in his hermitage, having just propitiated the sacred fire by pouring oblations into it. His body shone most brilliantly, though he has engaged in austere penance for a long time. He was not emaciated, for the Lord had cast his affectionate sidelong glance upon him, and he had also heard the nectar flowing from the moon-like words of the Lord. The sage was tall, his eyes were large, like the petals of a lotus, and he had matted locks on his head. He was clad in rags. Swayambhuva Manu approached and saw him to be somewhat soiled, like an unpolished gem. Om Ajnanatimrandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasani Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, 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 Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Swayambhava Manu arrives at Bindu Sarovara, the beautiful heavenly atmosphere at Bindu Sarovara, with sounds of birds, intoxicated bees, peacocks danced, cuckoos called one another, and beautiful flowering trees and wonderful fruit-bearing trees, and so many kinds of animals like deers, boars, porcupines, gavayas, elephants, baboons, lions, monkeys, mongooses and musk deer. And that is where he had his hermitage. And at that sacred spot, why it is sacred? It is sacred because the Lord appeared for Kardama Muni in that particular spot. He appeared with his daughter entering upon the sacred spot with his daughter, and going near the sage, the first monarch Swayambhava Manu saw the sage sitting in the hermitage. And it is described here that he shone so brilliantly. Swayambhava Manu observed that his body shone most brilliantly, although he has been undertaking very severe austerities. Normally when one is taken very severe bodily austerities, no food and all this kind of things, then externally looking at the person, he'll be very emaciated, hardly fed anything, and it won't be looking so brilliant like that. So here it is said that he was looking so brilliant, even though he was engaged in very serious austerities, because of the sidelong glances of the Supreme Lord, and after having heard directly the nectarian words from the lotus mouth of Lord Vishnu. For the Lord had cast his affectionate sidelong glance upon him, and he had also heard the nectar flowing from the moon-like words of the Lord. The sage was tall, his eyes were large like the petals of a lotus, and he had matted locks on his head. He was clad in rags. Swayambhava Manu approached and saw him to be somewhat soiled like an unpolished gem. So even though externally he was dressed in a rag, his body shone brilliantly, and he was very attractive, and he is compared to be a gem, but an unpolished gem. Polish is always outside. Gem means the value is that of the gem. So Swayambhava Manu could see the value of this great sage who he was asked to meet by the Lord himself to give his daughter. So in the purport, Prabhupada is talking about the Brahmachari yogi. These are the descriptions of Brahmachari yogi. And it said when he reached there, he was actually offering oblations to the fire. So that is the early morning routine of a Brahmachari, is to offer sacrificial oblations to the Supreme Lord. And the way in which we offer this in the present age, as Prabhupada says, they must chant the holy names of the Lord Hare Krishna. Because Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalo nastyeva, nastyeva, gatiranyataha. So, the modern version of this offering oblations is chanting the holy names of the Lord 16 rounds, as Prabhupada has asked us to do. Now, of course, the Kardama Muni situation is in a very beautiful forest, scenic forest. Everything is very favorable atmosphere for him. The very same atmosphere, or the effect of the same atmosphere, can be created by being in a temple where the deities are beautifully decorated, where the service to the Lord happens, and everybody is engaged in the service of the Lord. So in the association of the devotees, when we leave in the association of devotees, when you chant in the association of devotees, one gets more benefit than being in Bindu Sarovara. But one should be absorbed in the chanting of the holy name for the pleasure of the holy name, without any distractions. So that's why early morning time is the very best time for, even in this Kali Yuga, even in the middle of a city when we are staying. This early morning is a great blessing for the Vaishnavas, where the material world is still sleeping, and we get a beautiful opportunity for, in a totally undisturbed air, vibration, before the world wakes up and starts sending out their mental vibrations of their desires, this. You can feel that. The early morning, that time, if it, is the best time for doing all this homas, all the different kinds of sacrifices, including the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So there is no, fortunately, because of the holy name of the Lord, because of Sankirtana, even in the midst of a city, very hardcore sense gratification goes on in a city like this place, unlike a forest. So in the midst of that, it is possible for one to practice the brahmachari yoga and be a brahmachari yogi. So that's why Prabhupada says we should rise early in the morning, etc. It is something which is very extraordinary that Srila Prabhupada established, which is normally, very difficult to conceive that many people would be following this. Now we are seeing in ISKCON, many are following this. Followers of ISKCON are following this, getting up in the morning before Brahma Muhurta and being awake during Brahma Muhurta time. But imagine to tell the whole world that, now so many of us are doing. If we had not come to Prabhupada's shelter, then we would be not getting up, before 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. Which means, there is no question of spiritual life if you are sleeping at that time, which is very clear. So many times Prabhupada, so many quotes we are hearing every day, we hear Prabhupada saying that being up early in the morning, if you don't do that, then it's very difficult to advance in spiritual life. So, it's an inconceivable thing that what Kardamani has got the situation, what situation he has got in Bindu Sarovara, we are able to have that situation in Bangalore city or in the cities where Prabhupada's temples are there. So this is, in fact, it's more than that. This is Vaikuntha, because the deities are staying here, deities are residing here. And we take deities prasadam and we serve the deities. So one should take full advantage of the association of devotees, living in the association of devotees in such a temple, and create an atmosphere for being following this brahmachari yogi. Now here it is said that another thing that is Prabhupada's talks is about the sign of observing brahmacharya can be seen from the lust visible in the face and the body, and also the shine of the devotees, their brilliance, their face, the certificate of their following the brahmacharya. So this is also very important indication. In one sense, if you see, if you have taken a photograph of a devotee before joining the temple, and then after 5 years you look at it, he has followed the sadhana and chanted and everything, the face will be different, which is a fact. Not really because you have shaved head or anything. You shave your head, just before joining you shave your head. That picture you compare with 5 years after shaving your head, it will look different. These are all demonstrable evidence that once Hare Krishna goes inside us, it brings forth that spiritual energy of Satchidananda to different degrees. We'll be relishing it, we'll be enjoying it, we'll be experiencing it, but we may not be able to mentally place our hands and say it is this. But the fact is that our lives have changed and our face will change. And Prabhupada, another thing he says is about the health. He looked healthy because he had directly perceived the nectarian words from the lips, lotus lips of the personality of Godhead. Similarly, one who hears the transcendental sound vibration of a holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, also improves in health. So we were not wrong in introducing something when I used to say, tell people to chant that one round every day, the chanters club. So many people ask, health improve agatan, they say. So I never said no. I said, yes, health will improve. Now Prabhupada is confirming here. Because Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the source of all energies. So whatever is required whatever wellness energy is required, whatever is required to repair your body, or whatever triggers are required to release those kind of things in your body, everything happens by hearing this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra definitely improves the health of the devotee. And at least that should be the first thing, that somebody has health problem, he should understand that let me take first this medicine of hearing nicely Hare Krishna Mahamantra. On the other hand, sometimes devotees, when they fall sick, they say, I cannot chant my rounds because I am sick. Actually, if you somehow manage to chant that time, your sickness will go. See how Maya tricks. Because I am sick, I cannot chant. If you somehow chant, your sickness will go. Because have faith in what Prabhupada is saying. That one who hears the transcendental sound vibration of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, also improves in health. And Prabhupada is saying, this is what I was saying, that we have actually seen many brahmacharis, grahasthas connected to the international Hare Krishna have improved in health, and a luster has come to their faces, which is also a fact. The comparison of the sage to an unpolished gem is very appropriate. So, of course, brahmachari yogi, further is here, it's not being talked about following the principles of brahmacharya. It is taken for granted as far as Karma Muni is concerned. But as far as the modern world brahmacharis are concerned, ISKCON brahmacharis are concerned, following the brahmacharya itself is a very conscious tapasya, being in the midst of the cities. Even if one is interested in following the brahmacharya, he is bombarded with so many different kinds of sense objects. It is very difficult to maintain that brahmacharya unless one strictly follows certain a positive dose of Krishna consciousness should go in. Following the principles of brahmacharya, okay, fine. But that you cannot get the strength to follow the principles of brahmacharya if you don't have a positive energy spiritual energy of absorbing oneself in good sadhana and reading Srila Prabhupada's books. So if one does those things, then one will get the strength to follow the principles of brahmacharya. But following the principles of brahmacharya is very, very essential. Without following the principles of brahmacharya, making spiritual advancement is simply an illusion. It does not matter whether it is Mayavadis, whether it is Vaishnavas. Brahmacharya is a common factor because that is something to do with this bodily state. Bodily is the most creative fluid is the semen, and that is created every day in the body. From the food it is created, and this lot of that is transformed into so many other energies that are required for this body, for the brain, and if that is not conserved, then it simply one is not getting the support of the body for practicing spiritual life. Following the brahmacharya means strictly seeing that you are conserving your maximum bodily energy for your development of spiritual development. So it's not about even right and wrong, even as that is the ethical part of brahmacharya and sense gratification and all those things. Simply looking at the medical aspect, simply looking at the energy aspect, brahmacharya is very essential to conserve that energy that is required to activate our brain to understand Krishna consciousness. Then there are so many other aspects that we continuously hear about, what is the meaning of no illicit sex, various dimensions of that. We hear from Bhagavatam, we hear from, about detachment from this pleasure, which is there created by God for a particular purpose. It is not, sex is not for recreation, sex is for procreation. Modern population, modern value system is completely changed. They think sex is for recreation. So it's that sex for recreation is an acquired taste. It is not actual taste of a quality human life. For a quality human life, it is actually for procreation and for making a life together, to bring children together. For this purpose, God has created this pleasure in sexual activity or conjugal pleasure. He has created. The material world has got this designed for this purpose. But modern world has absolutely no idea of these higher principles, and simply they are what is now the modern philosophy is that these religious principles have simply suppressed our sexuality all these years. All these centuries of different religions have suppressed our sexuality. Now we are becoming liberated, we are educated, we are intelligent, we are evolving, and we have become liberated now from all these restrictive practices of sex, and there should be free sex. And what is the result of that free sex? The nature itself is punishing. So many kinds of diseases that are coming. If it was designs, if it is artificial suppression that all the different religions have been promoting, if it is artificial and it is not as per the design, and it is man-made restrictions, and now we are liberated because we are educated, and therefore we promote free sex, then you shouldn't be ending up with more problems. Today this free sex has ended up in so many different kinds of problems in the society, so many serious diseases, horrible diseases, lifelong diseases. Lifelong diseases, it cannot, once you contract certain diseases, it won't go whole life. And then you will pass on that to your children also. So if that is the case, why? If that was naturally designed, then this sex should not, unrestricted sex should not be creating these kind of diseases. So it's very clear that nature's design is not for that. Once you violate nature's law, it's a law, strict law, very impersonal law. Does not see who it is. Impersonal means does not see who it is. You break the law, then you get it. So in that way, in every human being has to suffer the reactions of something that they go against the designed way of life created by God. So in our modern life, we have also grown up in our present society. We come to Krishna consciousness, we come to Srila Prabhupada, then we hear and we get a different perspective. And that is a natural perspective of human life and the place of sex in human life. It's completely concocted ideas we get in our school education and everywhere. And sex is the beginning and the end of life. This is the impression when somebody is, by time the person comes out of his college, in his head it's completely filled up. Sex is the beginning and end of life. for a few years, till he gets beaten up. After that, by the time he gets beaten up, he already is addicted. He cannot give up also. Before he was not addicted, he was only excited about it. And then he slowly indulges, he gets addicted. After getting addicted, he has a realization. By the time he realizes it's become addicted, means it's become a habit, he cannot leave it, he is already trapped. That is how Maya is trapping the living entities away from the purpose of human life. So the fourth regulative principle of no illicit sex is something which is so important. It has got so many dimensions of transcendental knowledge associated with no illicit sex. What all benefits of that. Starting from physical energy, vitality, to highest principles of rasa. Everything of spiritual rasa, transcendental rasa, are all connected to how the different meanings that sex has, what it plays, or whatever, the conjugal relationship, what role it plays in soul to soul relationship, soul to God relationship. These things are, very confidentially described. There is confidential knowledge described by the Vaishnava Acharyas. Now Kardama Muni also is going to indulge in this. He is going to get a wife and he is going to enjoy nicely. All these things are going to be described in the few chapters. What is the place for all these things in Srimad Bhagavatam? This because you need to understand that these are all very important aspects. These are all symbols of divinity. Male, female relationship. These are all symbols of divinity. There is divinity there. It is being abused in the material world. But actually the living entity who wants to spiritually realize, they understand that these are all the vocabulary of the spiritual world. Unlike the Mayavadis, the extreme, what do they say? Mayavadis, Brahmacharya principle is what? This is all illusion, this is all illusion. Vaishnavas practice Brahmacharya. What is their perspective? This is not absolutely illusory. I have to get over this attraction. Not only here, even in the spiritual world. See, let's say take a Mayavadi, he practices this all illusion, this all illusion, this all illusion, it's all illusion. And one day you give him one Satchidananda female. Hey, this is not illusion. That's very good. He'll fall. Is it not? Why he is not finally enjoying here? Because he says, why the Mayavadis don't enjoy? Because it's illusion, it is illusion. Because he thinks only illusion exists. But actually illusion is existing for rascals. When you stop becoming a rascal, as Prabhupada says, we are all not gentlemen. When we become gentlemen, then non-illusory enjoyments are available in the spiritual world. By then, do you have the ethics? Do you have the chastity? Do you have the integrity of relationships? Have you developed all these things through practices of Vaishnavism? Then you can deal with all those things in the spiritual world. There won't be any difficulty because the principles with which we are attracted here is all wrong. We won't get attracted in the same way in which we get attracted here to sex. We don't get attracted there. It's a different principle. There's different value system of what is pleasure. Pleasure is highly relational in the spiritual world. And here the pleasure is highly robotic. It appears personal, but it is robotic, it is impersonal. So, Kardama Muni is said to be very effulgent, practicing Brahmacharya. So, in our circumstance, in the modern situation, by getting positive energy from the sadhana on a day-to-day basis, and keeping away from understanding, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, slowly by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one understands that I am not trying to keep away from opposite sex because they are illusion. A completely different paradigm. They are illusion and they are illusory enjoyment. There is no real enjoyment in it. This is what the Mayavadis say. The devotees understand the Lord's creation of Maya is so powerful. If one falls into illusion, there is high level of enjoyment. How can you say that? So we don't keep away from these things because there's no enjoyment. You should respect Lord's creation, the environment. Look at the beautiful environment that is there in Bindu Sarovara. One cannot resist, as Jiva cannot resist falling into sense gratification unless his basic attitude of being a gentleman in taking pleasure. Spiritual world, everywhere there is pleasure. In the material world, here and there, everywhere there is little pleasure you get here and there. Just like beggars are always running after little food you give, they'll take it. Beggars. So in the material world, we're all like beggars of pleasure. Pleasure beggars we are. In the spiritual world, we are fulfilled. We are rich in pleasure. We won't run like beggars. We are rich in pleasure. Krishna is the center of all pleasure. Vishnu is the center of all pleasure. We are rich in all pleasure. That's why it's completely a different atmosphere. Any questions? जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.